Malaysia truly Asia.
Hey, what's up guys, this is Abers313 and today kita akan bincangkan tentang Malaysia Agreement 1963 ataupun nama timangan dia adalah MA63. Now, what is MA63? Well, basically, it's an international treaty which was registered as 10760 at the United Nations as of 21st September 1970. Well, the history of MA63 is very long, complicated and complex. So what we're going to be talking about today is going to be the relevancy and why is it so significant in Malaysia's political field. Kalau korang notice a few months ago, dalam bulan April jugalah kan, dalam 9 atau 10 April, seorang menteri daripada Jabatan Perdana Menteri telah membawa satu usul pindaan kepada Perlembagaan Persekutuan, particularly Article 1 Clause 2. And what does that even mean? Why do we want to amend Article 1 Clause 2 so much? Well, it has to do with that MA63. This minister from the Jabatan Perdana Menteri, whose name is Datuk Liew Wee Kiong, consulted and had a few talks with the Jemaah Menteri or the cabinet ministers so that this usul pindaan ataupun the bill to the amendments of the constitution can be agreed in a consensus. So during one of this parliamentary session, during the first reading, he actually brought it and there wasn't really any problem to that. But the tides had changed when it got into the second reading, when it was brought up by Tun Dr. Mahathir. Tapi when they want to amend that Article 1 Clause 2 tu, it did not pass. Sampai sekarang, Article 1 Clause 2 tu tidak berubah pun.
Saya telah diberi keputusan 2/3 undi adalah bersamaan dengan 148,221 ahli Dewan Rakyat. Jadi inilah keputusannya. Ahli-ahli yang bersetuju 138.
So why do they want to change that? Well, it's part of the PH manifesto to give more autonomy and give more rights to the people of Sabah and Sarawak, especially according to the MA63 deal, where they want to revert back the status of Sabah and Sarawak to the original status as an equal partner within this Federation of Malaysia. Back in 1976, Perlembagaan Persekutuan telah digubal pada tahun itu supaya negeri Sabah dan Sarawak diletakkan seolah-olah di bawah Persekutuan Tanah Melayu and not under Malaysia. So, for example, let me give you a simple analogy. So, ada seorang ni dan ada lagi dua orang member. Jadi, bila Malaysia itu diupuhkan, the original intention supaya negeri-negeri Sabah dan Sarawak ni dan Persekutuan Tanah Melayu ni adalah sama rata, are equal in terms. But then, in 1976, when there was an amendment to the Federal Constitution, dia telah asingkan negeri Sabah dan Sarawak ni sebagai suatu wilayah ataupun territory yang asingan dan mereka jadikan negeri Sabah dan Sarawak ni as merely just normal states like in Persekutuan Tanah Melayu, and they placed Sabah and Sarawak as if they are normal states under Persekutuan Tanah Melayu. Originally, you had a friend cooperating with another friend equally, but then in 1976, they had to become sort of a subordinate to Persekutuan Tanah Melayu, and that is the current problem and issue. People in Sabah and Sarawak are not satisfied with what the federal government is doing. Now that we have the gist or the understanding of what MA63 is, we're going to be diving deeply and immersing ourselves into the history of MA63. To begin with, we have Persekutuan Tanah Melayu, and they gained independence, we gained independence on the 31st of August 1957. But then some sort of idea popped up in the head of our former Prime Minister Tunku Abdul Rahman, who believed that why not we merge together Persekutuan Tanah Melayu, North Borneo, Sarawak, Brunei and Singapore into this satu gagasan, satu negara yang dipanggil sebagai Malaysia. So one day Tunku Abdul Rahman, he went off to Singapore, and on the 27th of May 1961 he did a speech at Hotel Adelphi about forming a new country known as Malaysia. And there were a lot of mixed reactions from different people and officials, representatives and delegates from those crown colonies, but he's not giving it up for the world. So Tunku Abdul Rahman formed this committee known as the Malaysia Solidarities Consultative Committee so that these delegates, representatives and officials from these British crown colonies will come, and so that Tunku Abdul Rahman can talk to them, can brief to them about the idea and the reason to why we should form Malaysia. And from there on, a commission was established known as the Cobalt Commission, and was established on the 17th of January. They did some sort of research and survey towards the people of Sabah and Sarawak to see whether they favored or agreed to form the country Malaysia. And it turned out 80% of the people in North Borneo and Sarawak favored it. on the 9th of July, Tunku Abdul Rahman was in London where he took a flight there and he signed the MA63. This MA63 came into force on the 16th of September 1963 and it was formally recognized that Persekutuan Tanah Melayu, Sabah, Sarawak and Singapore became one country. But then Singapore left the Federation on the 9th of August 1965. And afterwards, Malaysia had to create a new legislation or act known as the Malaysia Act 1963, which caters to the MA63 to create amendments to the federal constitution catering to their peculiarities and sensitivities. And before the MA63 was signed and ratified, the states of North Borneo and Sarawak actually put forward this as something that we call as the 20 point or the 18 point, where they wanted autonomy in terms of immigration, in terms of religion and language and also employment. So that's why when we peninsular Malaysians go to Sabah and Sarawak, you'll need to have a my card and passport to enter Sabah and Sarawak to have a social visit up to only 90 days. And if you notice, the courts, the legislative state assemblies and other government departments, they still use English as their medium because that is what the MA63 guarantees for them. And the National Language Act is not enforced in the state of Sabah and Sarawak. You do not really have an official religion at all, and that if you want to become a practicing lawyer in Sabah and Sarawak, then you'll need to have a license from their high court and a permit at the immigration, something unique about Sabah and Sarawak and their autonomy rights. Despite the fact that they are given the autonomy, there is a devolution of power happening in those states. It's been claimed and alleged that the federal government had federalized the additional commissioner's appointment, they've intervened in tourism, they've intervened in their natural resources such as oil and gas, and that the federal government has also intervened in terms of their water supply. Masalahnya dibangkitkan especially with tourism tax bila kerajaan nak tambah lagi cukai, and also dia lebih macam pening lah bila ia melibatkan oil royalty kepada petroleum. And this thing had really actually started way back in Terengganu in the 1970s. And during that time, it was under our former Prime Minister as well, Tunku Abdul Razak. And during that time, petroleum was discovered off the shores of Terengganu. And the government kept this a secret and they extracted much of the petroleum, and kept it confidential. In the 9th schedule, where there is a state list, the federal government cannot intervene and just jump right into state matters, especially in terms of religion, customs, land, aborigines, and especially mining and the natural resources. So people have contended that it's unconstitutional, null and void for federal governments to intervene into those state matters. Abbas Saleh, who was a former Chief Justice, formulated a new act known as the Petroleum Development Act 1974, when in 1976 that act took in force where every state in Malaysia, inclusively of Terengganu, Kelantan, Sabah and Sarawak, had to surrender or submit their natural resources and mining to the federal government, while they only get 5% of the royalty. So that is why a lot of people, especially in Sabah and Sarawak, are arguing and complaining that the federal government are taking so much of their resources until the infrastructure, the development in Sabah and Sarawak is lagging behind. Also, the problem is that under the 10th schedule, part 4 of the federal constitution, sepatutnya negeri Sabah dan Sarawak patutnya diberikan capitation grants ataupun about 2/5 or 40%. Tapi selama ni dah 56 tahun negeri Sabah dan Sarawak tak pernah dapat pun 40% ataupun 2/5 of their capitation grants. And this came to the attention of various politicians, lawmakers and activists, particularly Adnan Satim, who was the late Chief Minister of Sarawak. Activists such as Zainal Ajamain from Sabah and the Chief Minister of Sabah as well, Shafi Abdal, had raised concerns over this matter. With the problem arising because due to tourism tax, due to the oil royalty, due to the capitation grant, I believe that there should be a lot of more solutions given. In my opinion, I share the same sentiments such as MP Dato Nancy Shukri, as well as our former Dewan Raya Speaker, who is Pandikar Amin Mulia. When we want to amend Article 1 Clause 2, I think that it doesn't really tackle and solve the issues that we have. It's just that when you amend that article, it just gives recognition, but it doesn't really solve the problems of the lack of development and infrastructural progress in the state of Sabah and Sarawak. If we want to solve that problem, then we must take more versatile and holistic measures rather than amending such laws because if we want to develop Sabah and Sarawak, especially in their education and schools, because 54.5% of their schools are dilapidated, not just the schools are in very poor condition, but their villages lack access to clean water, sanitation, electricity. There are still roads which are kind of outdated, and more development and infrastructure needs to be given. And it's not like the government previously and currently haven't done anything much to curb this problem. It's just that perhaps maybe more financial alternatives should be given to support the state of Sabah and Sarawak, particularly perhaps maybe by giving more private investment and business opportunities as well as job employment. Then, only then, more income can be generated, and at the same time, the 40% of the capitation grant should be fulfilled. And also the current government had promised under their PH manifesto to increase the oil royalty from 5% to 20%. Since we are talking about the MA63, I think it's also important to highlight the problems of Peninsular Malaysia. So we need to end the stereotype that people in Sabah and Sarawak think that their Peninsular Malaysian's counterpart is more highly educated, more technologically advanced, and more developed, when in reality, not every part of Peninsular Malaysia is like that. Because when you look at the B40, people still live in poverty, there is still kekangan kewangan. This is a national issue rather than an issue focused on Sabah and Sarawak only. Yes, we need to end the stereotypes happening between the states of Sabah and Sarawak and Peninsular Malaysia, and stop this slogan and then this semangat kenegrian and asabia. With these slogans and agendas, how are we supposed to end this friction between the states and achieve unity? Because these are the things that are causing us to go apart from each other, and I think this can be solved through proper education. Now we should highlight more about MA63. We should highlight more about the sacrifices did by our nenek moyang to achieve merdeka independence. And I would also question this still exists, stereotyping, and why, what is the point and what's the function of our datuk moyang nenek moyang kita semua memperjuangkan untuk buat jata negara, bersekutu penambang mutu? What's the function of having the bendera jalur gemilang with the blue color representing perpaduan if we are currently dividing and tearing apart our society? What is the point of having the Negaraku, the national anthem, bersatu dan maju? And even every morning during the school assembly, we read the Rukun Negara, kesopanan dan kesusilaan, when we are doing the exact opposite of that. We are insulting, we're discriminating. So what is the point actually of having those national logos, those national symbols? Hopefully, Malaysia will become a much more prosperous and harmonious nation in the future, and Malaysia will continue to strive forward.
Di pantai Balan-balan temuai Mayu curah